Hi, I'm Danica Fine. In this Schema Registry module, we're going to cover the concept of the schema subject, what it is, the different strategies for subject naming, and how to apply them. When you register a schema, you can use a subject name to create a namespace or handle for the schema in Schema Registry. Recall that in a previous module, we saw all of the ways to register a schema using the Confluent CLI, the REST API, or the Gradle plugin. In all cases, you must provide the subject name. The subject name is used for compatibility checks, which are done per subject, and linking version numbers to a subject. Also, when you evolve a schema by making changes to it, it's assigned a new ID and version number, but the subject stays the same. Essentially, the subject name is a unique identifier for a schema, a reference to retrieve it from the store. But how do we decide how to provide a subject name? Well, there are three main strategies: TopicNameStrategy, RecordNameStrategy, and TopicRecordNameStrategy. Let's take a minute to review each one. First up is the TopicNameStrategy. This is the default setting. If auto-register schema is set to true, schemas that are automatically registered by producers will be registered using a subject name consisting of the topic, followed by key or value, depending on whether the schema applies to the key or value of the message. So when you register the schema for a value in any of the ways we previously covered, you'd provide the topic name followed by key or the topic name followed by value. So for example, for topic A, we'd have topic A value. Using the topic name strategy effectively limits the topic to one record type, since all records in the topic must adhere to the same schema. Trying to register a schema for a different type would break the compatibility checks. To get around this limitation, we can use the record name strategy, which creates the subject name using the fully qualified class name of the record. Again, followed by key or value, depending on whether the schema applies to the key or value of the message. The record name strategy allows for different schemas to coexist within a single topic, since the individual records would only need to comply with a schema that has the subject name that matches its class. But you would have to use the same schema and version across all the topics in a cluster for that particular record type, since there's no way to tell which topic the record belongs to. And finally, the topic record name strategy is a combination of these two strategies. Subject names are created using the topic name, followed by the fully qualified record name, and then key or value. Since you've now scoped the schema to a particular topic, you don't have to use the same version across all topics in the cluster. For that record type, you're free to evolve the schemas separately. Choosing and using a particular strategy involves two steps. First, you must register the schema with the correct subject name format, and then you need to set the correct subject name strategy from the client side. Again, since topic name strategy is the default, clients are already set up to use that. So to use a strategy other than the default, set the strategy on the client using the key or value subject name strategy configuration parameters. Note that when setting the subject name strategy, you will need to use the fully qualified name of the strategy. All right, you now have a good idea of the subject naming strategies available to you. In the next module, you'll see a bit more about how a static subject name helps us to validate schemas over time. See you there.